Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So we are going to work with some mobile input, and we're going to do this sort of in two stages. We're going to just make a very quick sprite here in Blender, and then we're going to jump into Unity and show or look at it working. So this is Blender, and I'm just going to delete that default cube, and I'm going to add a circle, and we'll give it maybe 16 verts, and we will go in here into edit mode. So let me just turn on my screencast keys so you can see what keys I'm pressing. And I'm going to go, actually we'll start with all E, and we'll scale it in, and we will take these three here and extrude them on X, and then we're going to go SX0, and we're going to go E, escape, and scale. I'm going to move this very slightly forward. Oh, I hit E there, by mistake. G, move it very slightly, and then we're going to go E, X, and then we're going to go W, merge, and center. So we've made sort of a circle with an arrow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this side and delete the geometry over here, and we're going to add our mirror modifier. And then one of the nice things we can do is we can remove all that geometry, and so we've only got this one here. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go B, select all that there, and I'm going to go Shift D, or, oh, hang on, yeah, or 90. Now we want it to rotate around here, so we're going to change this to 3D cursor, so or minus 90. And although I have geometry in two different places, I'll just go with that for now. So I'm going to apply that. So now I'm going to go remove doubles. We have 12 verts less. So there's my arrows. Now I'm going to take this inner one, scale it in a little bit, and in orthographic mode I'm going to go proportional editing, GZ, and bring that down a little bit. Now we are going to now add another circle, and this one we're going to scale up a little bit, and from the side we're going to go GZ, bring this down, and we're going to extrude it up. Just turn off my proportional editing here, scale it in, let's hit F for face. So now I have this, so I'm going to select all of this and go G, Z. Okay. So with the whole thing selected, although we don't need to select it, but we're going to put on a subsurface modifier, and we're going to go into shading and set it to be smooth. Now, so we'll go to cycles render, we'll go to our materials. So there's a default material, which is white. So we're going to make this red, screaming red, and we'll look at it in material mode. And then I'm going to make a new material on the same object, and we'll call this black. And actually I'll go back to this one here, red. So with black selected, I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to assign that, but make it as the name is. Now, because we've added the subdivision surface modifier, it's kind of all very beautifully rounded. So I'm going to add in a couple of loop cuts. So I'm going to go Control or. So I'm going to do that on those three. Do the same at the base of each arrow. I'm just doing this by eye, so. And then we want this area here to be more pointed. So the easiest way to do that is actually to subdivide it. And I'm going to do the same over here, so I'm going to select those two, and those two, and those two, and hit subdivide. Okay. Now, so this is our joystick that we're telling our player to use, that he can use and push in different directions. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it into a spotlight and say use nodes. I'm going to go to my rendered setting, and then the nice thing about making this yourself is you can sort of play around with shadows and get a good sense of depth of 3D. So I'm going to go back to material mode, and I'll get a vertex select. So what I want to do is I'm going to add in a loop cut just there to make that a bit more defined, and that should give us a nicer shadow on the inside, a nicer sense of this circular object is kind of round. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a sort of a more it's going to give it a border. So again, I'm going to go to, I'm going to add a loop cut just here, select both of these, and then assign black to that. Now we go back to render, we have this here. And when it's rendered, it'll actually have a second level of subdivisions on it, so it'll look a little bit more smoother. Okay, so that's our joystick. So we're gonna I was gonna save this. So go file, save as, and we'll call it button. I'll stick it on my desktop for now. Now obviously none of this is necessary, you can just use the default stuff in Unity if you want. Now I'm going to go down here to a film. This is in our export settings, and turn on transparent, because we don't want a grey background, we don't want a background of any colour. We want to export a PNG file because that's going to support the transparency that we have in the background. I'm going to export it to my desktop, and I'm going to call it button. Button 1. I'll probably have to type that again actually as I think about it. Now, what size do I want it? Well, let's make it 512. Now, it won't ever be this big in the game, but just make it 512 by 512. Let's look through our camera, and that's what the camera sees. So, we're in edit mode, so let's go to object mode, and take this camera, oops, which is square, and we're going to go Alt or Alt G. And that is reset rotation, reset position, and then we can go G, Z, and put up, and then I'm going to go to the camera settings and make it orthographic. If I look through, that's what we've got, so we can zoom in just a little bit in terms of scale. It's about there. So this is going to be our render, or our button as we render it out. So I'm going to go File, Save, and then I'm going to render this, press F12. Now I haven't optimized the render or anything, but it's I think 128 samples, yeah, by default. So plenty good for a button. So that's our button there. I'm going to press F3 and save it. So we'll call it button 1 on the desktop, and we'll save image. And then we'll just resave our blend file. Okay, so there we go. Now let's minimize that, and let's go over here to Unity. And just to show you what we're going to try and make for today is we're going to have, I'm going to replace this here with my own button. So we can move forward and back, we can move right and left. Now I haven't got it to fire or jump, I haven't got animations working, it's just kind of basic stuff. So this is just kind of a very simple mobile input to the tutorial. So I'm going to create a new scene. And in my scene I'm going to bring in my tank. There is my tank. Now this tank is quite big. That's just how it was made. So I'm going to go 0.2 in terms of scale. 0.2 and 0.2. And we're going to add in a plane for our tank to move on. So let's close up this tank here, we don't want to do that. And, oh, okay, where has our plane gone? That's interesting. So the plane, there it is. We do not want that inside the tank. There we go. This is going to be the ground. Now, so let's just zoom in here on that. We'll make that a bit bigger, so let's give it its normal scale of 1. And then we'll just move it down a little bit on the y-axis so it's under the tank. Now, I'm floating a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to take my tank. I want it to fall under the weight of gravity, so I'm going to go to physics and add a rigid body. And then I want it to not pass through the floor, I want it to have collision, so I'm going to go to physics and add a collider. Now, what collider do I add? Well, the way this is made, it wasn't actually made for use in Unity. It's got loads of different parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a box collider. And the box collider is actually much smaller. So if I turn off my actually I can't turn off my renderer from here because they're all in individual bits, but we can kind of see you can see the green cube in there. So I can just make that bigger, so I'll make it bigger on X, bigger on Y, and bigger on Z. And then when I press P to play, press play to play, we should fall under the weight of gravity and we're on the ground. All good. So now, what do I want? I want to get this tank to move. So I'm going to put on a player script. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to explore that player script in a minute. You can see it's got 2 public variables. One is speed and one is rotation speed. So, and then the last thing we're going to do, which is simple enough, is we're going to use a prefab. We're going to use this one here. So this is standard assets cross-platform input. So where did I get all that from? So this is assets, import package, cross-platform input. So that's all I did. I just clicked on that and imported it. It'll give you a dialog box asking you, do you want to import everything or just part of like a subset of these assets. So I just imported everything. So this is my mobile single stick control. So it's going to drag and drop. And then this is what we have. Now I'm just going to reposition my main camera because it's a bit far away from my liking. So I'm just going to pull that forward a bit so we can see what we're doing. And let's give this directional light a little bit of color. And yeah, let's not worry about the rest of it. Now, this works, this has its own script on it, but this accesses controls, which are, if I go to Edit, Property Settings, and Input, so built into Unity is this notion here of a horizontal and a vertical input. And horizontal and vertical input are kind of generic to, you could use them for keyboard input, you can use them for mobile input, for a Bluetooth joystick, or whatever you want. And it's a range. It goes from -1 to 1. So if you're at 0, basically the joystick right now is 0 horizontally and 0 vertically. And what we want to do with this object here, with our tank, is we want to turn the horizontal movement, so movement on X, into rotation of our tank, and then we want to take our up and down, or Y movement on the joystick, and turn it into movement on Z for the tank, because if we look at the tank forward and back for the tank is Z. So X will be rotation, so movement left or right, which is on X in our 2D window, will be rotational value, and that'll be rotating on Y, because Y is the up axis, so we want it to rotate on that. So if I hit rotate here, and so that's rotating on Y. And then the up and down movement here, the movement on Y, it will be translated into movement forward and back for the tank, which is on its local x-axis. Sorry, local z-axis. So, so this presetter here, or this prefab, outputs information called horizontal and vertical output. And what we have then is a script on our tank, this one here that we've written. I'll just open it in MonoDevelop. And this is it here. It's not terribly long, and it's not terribly complicated. And it uses a public float, which is speed, which is going to be how fast we're moving forward or backwards. Public float, which is rotation speed, so how quickly we turn around. And we're saying that we want to access the cross-platform input get axis vertical. And that information is generated by the movement of this joystick. And then we multiply it by our speed. And then we say that we're going to have a translation, and the translation is going to be multiplied by time, so that it's incremental per frame. And then down here, finally, how do we move the tank? Well, we say move the tank, nothing on X, nothing on Y, but on Z. And what are we moving it on Z? Well, we're moving it this here, translation, and it's getting its input value vertical. And then we're going to rotate it, nothing on X, nothing on Z, but on Y. And where do we get that number from? Well, rotation is derived from cross-platform input from horizontal. So it's going to be a number ranging from -1 to 1. And then as you can see, if they were all 0, it would be 0, 0, 0, there'd be no movement, and 0, 0, 0, there'd be no rotation. So let's see it work. So I'm playing. I can go forward and back, and I can turn around, and it's quite effective. And if I go off the edge, I will literally fall forever. Okay, and then the very last thing I want to show you is we made a button. So let's bring it in. So import new asset. There's my button there. When I bring it in, it'll be just a texture. And textures don't by default work on the UI on the canvas here. So I need to change it to be a sprite and hit apply. And then that will actually get it to recognize the alpha channel. And then all I need to do to change is I need to go to my mobile input, the mobile joystick, and at the moment the image it's using is this one here, so button thumbstick up sprite. So we just take our button that we've made and drag and drop it in there. And now we've made our own UI graphic, and we're using a prefab from Unity plus our own movement script for our character. And if that was a game, I would have lost. So backwards, forwards, left, and yeah. So that is that's very basic mobile input. In our next class, what we'll be going on to do is generate the mobile joystick script, this one here, making sort of our own version of that, so that we have created all of the components to make our character move.